All right, welcome everyone. This is now session 7. So we're going to tonight. We're going to essentially finish off the modelling stage. We got very close last week. So once we finish the modelling, we're then going to go on to part 2, which looks at the documentation. And initially, we're just going to further develop the floor plan to add things like rooms, room tags, dimensions and text, tagging, and also the two required sections. So that'll come after we finish the modelling stage. So if you can open up your projects, and we'll just pick up where we left off last week. So if you can just go back to part 1 modelling and just scroll down. Just open up the fixtures, detail, components and symbols and line work PDF. That's what we're essentially working from at the moment. So did everyone manage to get in all of their kitchen, fireplace, plumbing fixtures and so forth? So your deck is in, your posts at the side of the deck, rainwater tanks. So what we still have to do, I guess, here is just add some detail lines. We also have to put in something called a masking region in this location here for the linen cupboard and also for the access point. And there's also a third one here for the floor grate in the bathroom itself. Once those are in place, we'll then have a look at actually putting in the tiled floor in both of the wet areas, and also we have to sort of add in the smoke detectors. So there's one there, and there's actually, I think that one I changed the position of. So just check that one. I think that one's actually further in here, but it will be indicated in the AutoCAD plan. So the position of the smoke detectors is on the AutoCAD drawing itself. So having a look here, yeah, so note the smoke detector down here, this one here, and there's one up here as well. So what we have left, what's still visible from the AutoCAD plan itself is, as I say, is this green line work here. So initially we're going to just add detail line work over the green lines here. Now again, this outline here, and this one here, and this one down here, we're actually going to add as what's known as a masking region. So we'll have a look at those first. So if we go back to the plan here, this first one here, which is the access point, produces a masking region, and the boundary line, the line work outside here, is actually using the -0.01 pen line style. The masking region here for the linen cupboard is using the line style called thin lines. So to add those masking regions, what we do is we go to the Annotate tab and we go to the region split button here and choose masking region.
What is a masking region?
Yeah, I'm about to explain that. So if you're not sure what something is, just have a quick read of the information that pops up. So here it says it creates a graphic that obscures elements in a project or family. So it's an item that basically blanks out something else. So for instance, if I just draw a quick masking region, let's say I put it over here, for instance, not that we're going to keep it here, for instance, but so it's just like a patch that sort of is put over certain parts of the view just to blank them out. Now, what you can do with your masking region is you can actually, when you create it, even after you've created it, you can actually edit the boundary. So this is the boundary, of course, and the boundary itself can be set to different line styles. So it could be a dash, for instance, like so. And it could be, in fact, made invisible. So that you can't even see the line work that's defining the masking region itself. So it's probably more useful in when you're actually annotating details and sections and details to actually mask out certain parts of the drawing. And what you can do is mask out a certain part of the drawing in a detail and then redraw something else over the top of it. Okay, so yeah, lots of ways, lots of reasons you would use a masking region. So for our purpose, I'll just delete that one, and I guess essentially what we're going to use it for in these wet areas is that it's going to mask out or blank out a part of the floor. So, and this will become obvious when we actually put the floors in. Okay, so what we're going to do is put the masking regions in first and then put in the floors after that, and you'll actually see how the two actually sort of work together. So again, masking region for the access point here, we're going to choose the dash 0.01 pen and draw that with a rectangle tool, just going from corner to corner. So again, when you're defining masking areas, they're defined or developed using the sketching technique. Once you've actually drawn the boundary line with the specified boundary line style, just click the green tick and that will produce the masking region itself. So once you've produced that one, created that one, you can then use the same tool using thin lines this time, rectangle, and then just draw in this one here. And finish. So they're the two masking regions that I've just put in. All right, yeah, so just scroll down to the bathroom itself, zoom in nice and close. So at the end of this partition wall, or this glass shower screen, add the third masking region, which again is drawn using thin lines. And once you've placed those masking regions, you can then just very quickly, if you just zoom into the walk-in area up here, Now the green line work up here that's coming through from the AutoCAD drawing, what you'll do is you'll actually trace that line work with detail lines. So does everybody know what a detail line is? So a detail line is just a normal line that's used in views to draw line work. Okay, so it's completely 2D. And I guess the thing is that a detail line, for those that have used AutoCAD or know a bit about AutoCAD, detail lines are exactly like the lines that we use to draw in AutoCAD. They're just standard 2D lines. So they're classified as annotation. And the thing is that things like masking regions and detail lines, when you actually add them to the view, they can't be seen in any other view. They are specific to that view only, okay? And if you're talking about, I guess, any sort of adding any sort of detail to a view, you'll get most of the tools here from the detail panel. Annotate, detail. And next to that you've got text, and on the other side you've got dimension. So these tools all relate to some aspect of annotating and detailing views. So the detail line is here, creates a view specific line. Okay, detail lines are visible only in the view in which they are drawn. And detail lines as such are drawn using any of the draw tools here, and also by choosing one of the line styles listed here. So the way this works is that just choose the line style that is specified, and the quickest way to add the line work is to actually use this option here, which is pick lines. And it's just a case of moving over the AutoCAD line work, and when it pre-selects, just click to actually add it. Okay, same goes with, so while you're actually placing detail lines, once you've placed these solid thin lines, then come back up to the line style selector and select the next line style, which is the dash 0.1 pen. And again, using the pick option, just pick the AutoCAD line work underneath. All right, can you please just finish off the detail line work? So there are some detail lines required for the pantry here. And there's also some detail lines required for the high wall split air conditioning head unit here. So again, just refer to the sheet here for the required line styles in each case. Okay, and we'll have a look at the floors soon, but just to finish off tracing the AutoCAD plan itself, if you can just add the smoke detectors. So they are classified as a symbol. So annotate, symbol, and symbol tool here. and have a look in the type selector. So you'll see smoke detector in brackets AUS, AUS. So that's the ones you'll need to use there. So just do your best to place those. They don't have to be exact, but just place them over the top of the AutoCAD symbols. And next we'll have a look at just putting in the wet area floors. Okay, so if you what I'll get you to do now is, can you, if you haven't already, change your visual style to hidden line, and what I'll get you to also do is there's no need to keep this section here if you've got that in your view, so that can go. And can you hide by category? Okay, hide by category the AutoCAD drawing. Okay, so you can easily select that one by clicking on the text here. So that's the AutoCAD drawing there. So that now needs to be hidden by category. Okay, so we'll have a look at putting in the wet area floors now. So the first floor that we're going to put in is the floor here for the laundry, and just down this very small passageway, and also inside the ensuite. And also inside the main bathroom here. Now, if you zoom in relatively close, the floor itself, or the floor type that you need to use, has been already created, so you don't have to actually create the floor type itself. It's actually a floor of a tiled floor, which with tiles that are 250mm square. So if you go to the back to the architecture tab, click the floor tool. In the type selector, you'll see a floor type there called 250mm tile. In the height offset from level, can you change that to 5, as in 5mm? And using the rectangle tool, you're going to sketch or just draw in the floor boundary, starting from the top right-hand corner up here, inside corner, and create the floor outline. Take it to here. Okay, see where I am there? Okay, so that's the floor outline. You'll note that we've actually drawn this as a single floor, and it's actually, the floor itself is actually passing through or going underneath walls, and it's also going into the ensuite area here, which does work. And I guess once we produce the floor, just note what happens with the two masking regions. When you get this this warning here, just click no. And once the floor is placed, just click modify or hit escape a couple of times. So that's now put the floor through the laundry area here, plus the ensuite. And so it works quite well in that it's not running through the walls or the plumbing fixtures, and of course it's not running through the masking regions. See what the masking regions are doing now. So essentially the masking regions are providing a clear area for us to put text in, okay, without the actual tile pattern going through them. So I guess the thing is everyone happy enough with that, the way that presents? If in fact you get this result here, okay, if you're actually seeing the actual tiles coming through these, the trough and the washer and dryer and the plumbing, it just means that you've got your visual style set to wireframe. Okay, so as I said before, we need to set that back to hidden line. Okay. So having put that that floor in there, I'll get you to put the same floor into the main bathroom. And again, just respond no to this message.
The height offset 5.0 or is it 0.5?
5.05 millimetres for both of those as an offset. So it basically, because the actual floor itself, the physical floor that we're placing is 5 mil thick, and we're just actually putting it on top of the floor that's already there. Now, I guess the thing is that we're using a floor here to introduce or show the tile hatch, okay, because this is the best option, because as I say, it will actually sort of slip underneath everything else, and the hatch itself won't actually go through the objects.
Can you change the angle of the tiles?
Yes, you can actually, if you actually mouse over one of them and hit the tab key, you can actually physically select the tile hatch itself. And if you use the rotate tool, for instance, you can actually rotate them to, say, the 45. And the other thing that you can do, I'll just undo that, Control Z. The other thing that you can do is that you can actually, if you can use the align tool and, for instance, align the tile line here with, say, the face of a wall, like that. Okay. Now the thing is that the hatch pattern itself, which is part of the floor, if you have a look in its type properties, the hatch pattern is actually, does anyone know where the hatch pattern comes from, or where you actually set it or change it within the floor type? No, it's actually if you go go in a bit deeper into the construction of the floor, and go in a bit deeper here to the actual material assigned to the floor, the hatch pattern itself is actually part of the foreground surface pattern of the material assigned to the floor type. So that's where the actual hatch pattern comes from. When you click on this swatch here, it opens up another dialog called Fill Patterns, where you can actually, change it to another type of hatch pattern, or you can actually create your own, and so forth. So you have to go in quite deep to sort of, and the other thing that you can do here is, if you edit the current hatch pattern, you can actually change the angle. Maybe not. Basic, custom. Yes. This is this type of hatch pattern you can't. But there's a drafting hatch pattern that you can actually change the angle of. But as I say, if you wanted, like I said, if you wanted to actually change the angle of the hatch here, again, you can just select one of the tile lines and use the rotate to rotate them like so. Okay, so so essentially that's now the I guess the completion of the modelling stage. If we have a quick look in 3D.
So do we need to align that or let it be like that?
No, there's no requirement to align the hatch, the actual tile hatch. So having a look at your 3D view, what I would suggest that you sort of do now perhaps is maybe just select some of the objects that you've placed, such as the deck and the posts, and just put a pin in them, just pin them in place. If you haven't already, it might be an idea to actually pin the tanks. Just also, if you haven't already, maybe just select the roof group and the floor group and just pin those. The roof over the existing, if it's not pinned, I'd suggest pinning that one as well. Okay, just so just go through and just pin those objects as a precaution. When you've done that, you can then come back and or just reopen the Plan Complete floor plan. All right, so we're going to just move over now to the to stage or part 2, which is the documentation. So if you can just go back to the main menu here, the contents, and just open up part 2, which is the documentation. So in this second section, we're going to commence and produce documentation for the project. Documentation provides the essential details to build a design. Construction documents are the records that you share with clients, engineers, and construction professionals to communicate a design. So we're going to begin, I guess, or just continue with the floor plan as such. So once the floor plan is complete, we'll then move on to the demolition plan. Now, just I guess just a word about text and dimensions, and I guess particularly what sizes and styles we're going to use for our text and dimensions generally throughout the rest of the project. Now, there's a PDF here that I've created which will outline all of the required text types or styles, and also the dimension types or styles. Now, the document here also provides screenshots of the type properties of each to show the custom settings. So particularly in the case of the dimension types, of which there are two, those dimension types are heavily customised, and the customisation has already been done within the project. So the two required dimension types are already there for use, and the 4 text types are already there, already created for you to use as well. So there's no need to create new ones. And here your lecturer will provide guidance with respect to the size and type to use within the various views. So if we have a quick look at this PDF, it says here you are required to create 4 text types and 2 dimension types. Well, as I've just said, that's been done. Okay, so you don't have to create them. All right. This document I produced a while ago, and we were at one stage getting students to actually create these types, but we're not anymore. Okay, so they are built into the actual startup project. So the thing is that the 4 text types that you will encounter all begin with the word standard. So 2, 2.5, 3 and 5. Okay, now please do not use and if you actually have a look at the text tool and have a look at the types there, you'll see the standard types, the 4 of them. Okay, please do not use the first one. Okay, the first one is not to be used, the aerial. Okay, so if any text is required, you'll choose from the 4 sizes here, the standard sizes. Okay, the reason for that is that each of these standard sizes are using this font here, the ISO CP EUR. Okay, so that's quite important that we that the font that is used throughout the project is the same. So they're all using that particular font there. Okay, this one here. Now the thing is that students using the computers here at TAFE are okay because the font is installed on these machines. If you are working at home, generally you will have this font installed on your computers at home. But I guess having said that, I've noticed that if you don't install Microsoft Office on your computer at home, you won't have this font. So the thing is that, yeah, so Revit tends to substitute this font for Arial, I think. So this mainly applies to external students, and quite often what happens is that external students will go through and complete the entire assessment task, produce their PDF sheets and then submit to me, and all of their text is incorrect in terms of the fact that it's the wrong font mainly, and all the layout is incorrect, because when I load it up into my system, Revit then resubstitutes their Arial font for ISO and it all changes. So it becomes a big mess. So, having said that, if we go back to the Learn site, under here project font, so for anyone that suspects that they haven't got the correct font at home, okay, you'll need to just download these 2 files and install them on your home computers. That way Revit will be able to locate and use the correct font in your project if you are working on it at home. Okay, so down here I've just put a quick how to install those two TrueType fonts in Windows. So this is a Windows problem, not a Revit problem. Okay, so Revit doesn't provide the fonts, the Windows operating system does. Okay, so they have to be there for Revit to use. All right.
If we're practicing at home in our laptops, for example, and we have the Office installed, do we still have to install these?
No. No. If you have Office installed on your computers at home, there's a fair chance that this is already installed. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you'll when you're placing your text at home, if you're using text at home, you'll actually sort of see there's quite a marked difference between this and Arial. Okay. So it's worth just double checking that anyway to make sure you have got those fonts. So coming back to our text and dimensions here. So we've got the 4 text types, and I guess the thing is looking at the screenshot here, the type properties for the standard 2mm. You can see that these are the settings that we've used for the text types. So as I say, there's no need or no requirement to actually change any of this. Okay, so just leave it all as is. Now, if we move on to dimensions, again, I've provided a couple of screenshots here. So these screenshots here, there's actually 2 types of dimensions that you're going to use. There's the standard 2mm diagonal with tick, to be used for the majority of the project, and the standard 2mm with arrow is for the site plan only. Okay, now the site plan, I guess, will use, I guess, both of these styles. But as I say, you will be directed when you're working on the site plan itself. You will actually be directed, and it will actually tell you which dimension style to use for which dimension. Okay, so just be careful you don't get those mixed up. This one will be used for our floor plan, which is coming up shortly. Okay, the W tick with tick. Okay, and again, they both use the ISO CP font. And in the following screenshots, it just actually indicates the settings that we've used for both dimension types. So it just shows you how they were actually created. It's more out of interest, really. So if you want to recreate these dimension styles in other projects, you can refer back to these sheets. Having said that, at the end of this assessment task, one of the last things that we do is that I'll actually take you through a little mini exercise where I'll actually show you how to convert the current project to a template that you can use for your next project. And in doing that, what happens is that when you start your next project using the template, it carries through all of these settings and all of these styles for you to use again, okay, in a template format. Okay, so that's our text and dimension types, and I've also talked about the project font. So any questions on that so far? Okay, so we're going to go down to number 1 here, developing and annotating the floor plan. Now, down here there are 2 separate PDFs. There's one here for rooms, sections and tags, and a second one for dimensions and text. So we'll just have a look at one at a time. So this one here, rooms, sections and tags. So if you just open that one and have it sort of sitting or docked on your second monitor, Initially what we're going to do is place our rooms each of our rooms in these spaces, and then update the room tags. Now the brown dashed lines are room separation lines. Okay, are you aware, or do you know what room separation lines are? Okay, so what function do they perform? Why do we use them? Why do we need them?
It just separates the area into two halves or different functions.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, it's they are used to yes, they're used to actually separate a space into two parts in the absence of what? A wall. Yes, yeah. So the thing is that there are two objects in a project that can define a room. One is a wall and one is a separation line. Okay, so I guess here in this situation here, we use a separation line to define the laundry and the study because they share the same space. And we use a couple here to actually define the study, the hall and the entry. And one over here to define the lounge, or to separate the lounge from the kitchen. But note, I've got one drawn on the boundary of the deck itself. So that allows us to basically put a room in here, add a room into this space, to actually calculate the square meterage of the deck. So they can be used for that purpose as well. So ordinarily, when you actually place room separation lines, do you know what colour they are? They're a light blue. And light blue against a white background is very hard to see. So what I'm proposing here is to make them visible. We actually change the colour to brown using the following RGB red, green, blue values. So there's a couple of reasons that we want to make them more visible in views, okay? And I guess the thing is the primary reason is that if they're light blue, they're very hard to detect, particularly if you've got your thin lines turned on, i.e. your line work is all the same, it's very thin. And what tends to happen is that these separation lines, if they're not hidden, they will print. So you'll actually see them in your PDFs. And the thing is, we don't want to see them. So we sort of change them to a stronger colour so that they stand out more. And when we're looking at our views, when we actually print a PDF, when we're looking at our preview, if we can see them in a view, we know that, okay, we have to go back and hide them before we actually do our final print PDF. Okay, so it's for that reason mainly that we make them a darker colour. So to do that, before we place them, we're going to change the colour of them. Now, if you can appreciate that they're a separation, they're a line type, and to actually change the colour of them, we have to do that from the Manage tab. And if we're going to change, or if we're going to manage lines and line styles, we actually do it from this button here, which is Additional Settings. And down here, if you drop the list down, see you've got line styles, line weights and line patterns. If you then click on line styles, this is the part of Revit that controls lines as such. if you expand lines with the plus symbol here, you can see that all of the lines that are available to you as detail lines and other lines that are used in the program are listed. So what we do is we go down the list and we look for room separation. We go across to the line colour, which is currently cyan. Click on the little colour button here, which opens up the colour dialog. And the colour that I'm proposing is this one up here. See this one up here? So second column, second from the bottom. Okay, so change it to that colour, click OK, and that changes them to this dark brown. And OK on that one. So what I'll get you to do now is, if you can just, following my PDF, just actually draw in those separation lines. Now note, with the separation lines that follow the boundary or the border of the deck, you start up here and you stop down here, okay? So there's no need to actually trace the walls, okay? There's no need to trace the walls because the walls themselves form a boundary, don't they? And with your walls, for instance, if you were to select a wall, what makes it a boundary? And I guess the question is, or the answer is, for a wall to actually be a boundary or form a boundary, it has to have this option ticked here, room bounding. See that option there? Okay, so if you happen to be using a certain type of wall that is not room bounding, and you're finding that you can't place rooms properly, it's not actually detecting the boundaries of the walls, this is the setting that you have to go for and tick that one. It doesn't often come up, but it may, okay? So if you can just, yes, just spend a few moments and just put in those separation lines, and then we'll have a look at putting in our rooms. So just get in nice and close so that you can actually see what you're picking, and make sure you pick the right points. So have a look at that quickly. That one's in.
Sorry, what's where did you go?
Yeah. So the room separation lines. This button here, which you'll find on the architecture tab, room separator. So here I've now got in my separation lines along my deck boundary. one here for the laundry itself, 2 here, and 1 through here. Yeah, so with your separation lines, once you've placed them, if you, I'm just actually toggling thick lines, thin lines. So if you can appreciate that if you actually switch to thin lines, which is the this button up here, and the button is blue, so that's thin lines active. Yes, it's very difficult to see the separation lines, particularly running along the outside of the deck. You can, and see this one here is very difficult to see. Out here in the open you can see them, but I guess when you are checking other views, it's a good idea just to sort of just toggle that off so that you can see if there are any separation lines visible. And the thing is that once you've placed them and you're happy that they are in the correct position, hide them by category. Okay, so once you've placed them, immediately hide them by category, and if they do show up in other views, also hide them by category in those views as well.
Not in the plan.
In all views. Yeah. So the thing is that we don't want to see separation lines in any view. Okay. So yes, they have to be there, but we don't want to see them. So select one of them and do a hide in view by category. Okay, so once you've hidden your separation lines, then you can then go. So from the architecture tab, you can then start adding your rooms. So room tool here. So just make sure that your tag on placement button is highlighted here, a blue colour, and then as you move into your floor plan, you'll see that as you sort of move into each space, it then detects the boundaries of the room. So of course the walls and the separation lines to form a boundary. And again, just place the room tags as per my sheet here. Okay, so just place the room tags as per my sheet here. Once you've added the rooms and the room tags, just go back over and update the names, and the room names must be all in uppercase. And if you can just do your best to actually get the room tag in about the same place as each of mine. Okay, so just have a look, just about the same spot. Don't forget the just out here on the deck area itself.
The square meters of the room, does that come up all the time, or that's an option that you have to turn on?
The question is the square meterage on the rooms. so again, if you select one of your tags and you go over to the type properties of the tag itself, you'll see that under the options here, you've got show room number and show area. Now, we're not seeing a room number because the room number itself has been removed completely from the tag family. So we're talking about, yes, I've gone through and I've actually customized these tags as well. So that really has no bearing or no function there. But the area, if we untick that one and click apply, it turns the areas off. Okay. And of course, what I've done with the tag itself is I've actually changed the font within the tag to that ISO font, that ISO CP font. Yeah. So, but yes, so that will toggle the area on or off. Okay, so yeah, so if you happen to delete a tag, so if I delete, say, the tag for bedroom 1, so bearing in mind that I've actually renamed the room itself, if I delete the tag, I get a warning to say a room tag was deleted, but the corresponding room still exists. You can place another tag for the room using the room tag tool, or select the room and delete it. So the thing is that in deleting the tag, it doesn't delete the room. Okay. Now, not that we want to delete the room, we need the room itself, but if you happen to place a room and it doesn't tag, don't put another room in its place. So don't go back to the room tool and put another room in here. It will place another room in the same spot, but you've then got 2 rooms. So what that does is that if you're producing a schedule for your areas in your floor plan or your building, if you put a second room in the same place, it's going to double count. So it'll actually count this area again. So this will be 2 lots of 17 metres. So that will contribute an additional 17 metres to your overall floor area. If you need to put a tag in there, just go to the, again, architecture and tag room, and just when you click tag room, any space that has a room in it, it'll come up with this blue highlight, and then you can just move over and it will actually tag that space. As you move from room to room, see how it changes to entry and then bed 2? So it does know, it picks up on the name of the individual spaces. Okay. So I'll just place that back in here and escape a couple of times. Now, just with regard to rooms, the thing is that even if you delete the tag and the room still exists in the project, okay? And it will give you a warning to that effect. What it might be useful to do, and this is not a requirement of the project, but sometimes it's, if you're not sure, that, you know, if you actually think you may have actually added a second room somewhere, and you do want to calculate the area or the area within the floor plan accurately, what it might be useful to do is actually to go to the View tab, go to Schedules and Quantities, and very quickly create a room schedule. And in the fields on the left-hand side here, you can actually then just include area. So just move that across to the right-hand side, and just go down to the name, room name, and select that and move that across. And then with the name highlighted like that, just use this arrow to move it up to the top position. So name and area. And then click OK. So that will produce a very quick room schedule. Now, again, we're not going to use the room schedule, but it's just worth perhaps quickly producing one to make sure that when you add your rooms, that you've got all your rooms named. You've got all the areas here on the right-hand side, and it's just a check. Just make sure that you haven't got any rooms that are unlisted. Okay, because if you do add a room, if you add a room twice, okay, it's possible that, and you haven't named it, it's possible it will actually come up here and the list is unlisted. So, for instance, if I go back to my floor plan and I add another room here, in this space here, see how it comes up with a warning to say multiple rooms are in the same enclosed region. The correct area and perimeter will be assigned to one room and the others will display redundant room. You should separate the regions, delete the extra rooms, or move them into a different region. So see, it comes up as a redundant room. Okay. Now, if that happens, obviously that's the reason why. If you go back to your schedule, so if you go down to your schedule down here in the project browser, where are we here? Schedules, so room schedule, this is the one we've just created. See at the end there it has room, and next to it it has redundant room. So the only way that you can really delete that room is to select this redundant room here in the schedule, and then come up here and delete the row. See the delete button here, row? So this will delete one selected room and any tags. So it removes it from the schedule, but it also removes it from the floor plan, which is the model. So that's the only way that you can actually completely delete a room from project, is to create a room schedule quickly, check to see if there aren't any redundant rooms there, and if there are, select them in the schedule and then delete the actual row itself. Okay. All right. So from here, we're going to move on next to having a look at putting in tags and sections. So we've now dealt with our rooms and our room separation lines. We're now going to have a look at putting in tags, so wall tags, doors and windows, and also putting in these section lines. So once we've done that, we'll then have a look at putting in our text and dimensions. All right. Okay, so we'll just quickly just go through and place our door tags and our window tags. You're also required to actually add wall tags. So one up here, There's one over here and a couple over here which read W2. So note the tags for the two windows, the kitchen windows, so 8 and 9. So 8 on the left, 9 on the right. Just position them so that they are side by side, not overlapping. Some of the tags, when you place them, like this one, number 1, number 6 and number 7, will actually tag internally. So it's a matter of actually just put the tags in first and then actually move the tag from inside to outside so it lines up with tag number 2, and tag number 7 can line up with tag 8 and 9, and 6, just bring that one out to about there. So annotate tab and then tag by category is what you'll need. Now the tag numbers should be correct, because remember when you place the tags, so the tag itself will have this leader. So before you place the tag, just untick the leader option up here on the options bar. So you're not going to tag that one, but you're going to start by tagging this door here. That's door number 1, and this is window number 1. So just 1, 2, 3, 4 down here, door number 5 here, and door number 6 over here. And then window 1, 2, window 3, you'll actually tag in the north elevation, so that one will be tagged separately, not now. So as I say, when you're moving the tags from the inside, just select the tag itself. Using the move symbol here, just move it down, and you will get an alignment path with the tag next to it. See the alignment path back to tag 8. Tag 6, just select that one and then just move it out just to about there. Tag 1 for window 1, again, just select it, move it out. When it aligns with tag 2 underneath, just release it. And with some of these door tags, see how tags 2 and 3, they're directly over the door itself. So what I'm suggesting there is just select the tag and then use your arrow key to nudge it slightly to the right in this case. And with tag 3, just nudge it slightly to the left. And do the same with tag 4. So again, just slightly to the right. Just so that they are a little bit more readable. Tag 5, yeah, you can probably move that up. And perhaps with tag 1, just move that slightly to the left. Now, with the wall tags, has anyone put their wall tags on? Yeah. So the wall tags are produced using the same tag by category. So as you move over at one of the walls, you'll see the tag appear, and just click to place it. And so one on either side there. Now the wall tags, I guess, the wall tags themselves obviously will be used to identify the wall types. So we're only really interested in, I guess, the wall type here, which is the brick veneer, and the wall type here for the new construction, which is a combination of timber framing plus insulation plus the corrugated iron on the outside. Now the thing is that, okay, so the wall tag itself has this code. This one is W1, so short for wall 1, and the new walls here are WT, wall 2, or wall type 2. So I guess the thing is that how does the software know that this is wall 1 and these are wall 2? Not the phasing as such, but if you are, and I guess the thing is that ultimately we're going to, I guess, add a symbols legend to our floor plan sheet, and in the symbols legend we'll actually have W1, and we'll have a description of what W1 is, and we'll have W2 and a description of W2. So I'll just quickly show you what that's going to look like. So ultimately the floor plan, when it's complete, this is the floor plan sheet. So you'll see that the floor plan sheet is going to contain this symbols legend, and you'll see that wall type 1, okay, is existing brick veneer, and wall type 2 is the custom orb on 90 timber frame plus R3 insulation. So we're using tagging with a code inside to denote the wall type. So I guess the question is, where does the code come from? And the thing is that if you're going to allocate a code to a wall type to include in a tag, you actually do that where? Where would you do that perhaps? Where would you add information about a wall type to include in a tag? Yes, that's the answer, in the type properties of the wall. So if we have a look at the type properties of this wall, for instance, and we have a look down here, if we actually scroll down, you'll see that down here next to type mark, that's where I put in my code. Okay, now if I change that to ZZ, for instance, and click apply, it changes the wall tags to ZZ. Okay, so whatever we put in here next to type mark will appear in the tag that we've actually put against the wall itself. So you can really please yourself with this.
Is there a date option?
No. No,
So you might put one in after that.
No, in fact, if I remove that, it comes up with a question mark, I think, or nothing. So, and that's exactly what you'd get if you actually placed a tag on a wall without anything here in type mark. Okay, so so we've sort of just decided, okay, well, we've got two wall types, so 1 and 2. We enter that information into the type mark field here, and then it automatically populates the tag itself. So nothing happens by accident. All right, so so that's how that works. All right. So they're our tags in place now. So what I'll get you to do next is, can you? We need to see both roofs now. Okay, so we need to see both roofs. So if I can ask you to do that. No blank looks, please. So you should know how to do that now. Reveal both roofs. Okay, so both roofs are now visible. So we know that is the range base level. Okay. Now, in your projects, is the roof over the extension dashed? Okay, so is it showing as a dashed line here, the same as this one?
Sorry, what you're asking?
Is this line here?
Yeah.
Is it dashed like this?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. So the thing is that when we, I guess initially when we place the roof group over here, the actual outline of the roof could be solid grey, and I think at some point we changed it to dashed, didn't we? So just check to make sure that the outline of the roof here does match the outline of the roof here. In other words, they're both dashed. All right. It's not a trick question. Okay. All right. If you're all okay with that, we'll move on. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is actually add the section lines. So referring back to my sheet here, so you can see that we've got a section line running through the building this way, from west to east, and we've got a section line running through the building here from north to south, and you'll see that it has this this step in it. So initially it cuts through this part of the lounge dining, and then moves to the right, and then cuts through the kitchen through this part here. So it actually runs through the two kitchen windows, windows 8 and 9. So to place those sections, or those section lines, just initially, just zoom in fairly close, and if you go to the View tab, and then just place a section over here from left to right, and just I guess in the positioning or the placement of it, just as it's selected there, just nudge it downwards. In my case, I'm nudging it downwards using the down arrow to about there. Okay, so note, note, I guess, the relationship between the section line and this part of the roof here. Okay, the distance there. And while it's still selected, just over here on the right, you've got this little circle with the two arrows. If you click directly on that, it will actually change the tail to nothing to a head, okay, which is what we want. So we need to have this head on both sides. And while we're doing that, if you just bring the head in slightly on each side, like so, and then you can hit the escape key to deselect. And I guess before we go too much further, the section we've just added, providing there are no other sections in the project itself, will come up as section 1. So what I'll get you to do is actually select the section line, if it's not already selected, and come across to the properties here. So building section. Just come down to the identity data area where it says view name, and in uppercase change that to section A. Okay, section A for that one. Okay, the question is, what's the difference between, or the options here? So it was that originally. I guess the thing is that there is really no difference. This doesn't make any difference to the section itself. It's just mainly aesthetics. And I think if you actually look at any other floor plans, any sections that you see will have the head on either end. It just looks better. It looks more balanced. Yeah. So we just toggle that to show a section head. Now, once you've placed the line through here for section A, I'll get you to actually put in the line for, or the section for section B. And again, just starting up here, just run it through door number 6 and down to here initially. And again, I'll get you to select the section line. And if you can just, in my case, I'm just going to nudge it across to the left so it sits about there. While it's selected, just adjust the position of the level head, just bring that down slightly. And while it's still selected, come across to the properties here and just rename this one in uppercase section B. Okay, so with section B, what we're going to do is select it again. You're going to change the tail here. And with it selected, with the section line selected, just have a look up here, modify views, and you've got here size crop and split element. So to actually make the section, or to actually split the section into 2 parts, so that the lower section, the lower part of it here, passes through the kitchen, what we do is we select split element here, which gives us a knife, and we then move along the section line here, and just where it intersects with section A, we left click and then move to the right. And just place the split part of the section, just make sure it just runs through the kitchen windows 8 and 9, just about here. And then just hit the escape key a couple of times. Now, just to finish off here now, so if we come back to my A3 sheet, here, notice how this is the section we've just split. And notice how that that section A has this gap in it. So it's got a gap from here to here. And we've actually pulled this section line apart so that it leaves a little gap here and a little gap here. Sorry? No, we haven't done that yet. No, so I'm just pointing out this is the way we want it to actually this is the final modification. So at the moment we don't have a gap. Okay, so if I select this section line, so section A, to actually place a gap in the section line itself, come across to this object here, which is gaps in segments, and click. So what that does is it puts a gap in that section line with these two little bubbles that we can drag. So the one over here on the right, if we click and drag that and bring that across to here, and the one on the left, drag it to the left and put it about there. So that the gaps on either side, so the little gaps here are consistent.
Where was the gaps in section?
You have to select the section line itself, and it's this little squiggle here. Yeah. So I guess also just make sure that the this part of section B, this line running through here, does line up roughly with the line running through for section A. Okay. So the thing is that if you have to adjust it, note you've got these little these drag arrows, these shape handles, and that can be moved up or down. But there's no accurate way of actually lining these two up apart from just doing it by eye. Okay, so and again with the section head here, just if that one, just depending on that, the position of that one, maybe just move that up slightly. And what we're aiming to do is have the sections, the positioning, and also the positioning of the heads, just matching my examples here on this sheet. Okay, so just be guided by the positionings here, 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 and here. Now, note that your section heads will not have numbers in them. Okay, they will not have numbers in them until the sections go onto a sheet. Okay, so now these drawings were taken from the completed model, and these sections are actually physically on another sheet, which is A106. But your heads here will not have numbers until the actual sections A and B are physically placed on a sheet, and that sheet is changed to A106. Does that make sense? Okay, because as I say, that will automatically happen when these sections go onto a sheet. So it automatically picks up on the sheet number in this lower part of the head itself. All right, so so that's we've now done tags, rooms, and sections. So we can now move on and have a look at placing the text. So if we come back to Learn, we'll close this sheet now. So we have pretty well covered everything on both of these views. So we'll close that one. Come back to learn itself. So here we are. So we've had a look at this sheet here. So we'll now have a look at this sheet here, which is dimensions and text. So with the text, we're going to have a look at the text first. So when we're sort of referring to text or talking about text, we've got a combination of notes that have an arrow attached to them. So there are a few of those. There's one up here, and there's a couple down here, and there's also some in here. Other pieces of text are just free, so they're just actually with no leader, just like so. So the majority of the text itself, okay, the majority of the text itself is actually 2mm. Okay. Now the letters WIR, okay. So this is the only exception. The letters WIR in here, that's not a room tag. That's actual plain text. So note that this is actually 3mm, okay, and the rest of it is 2mm, all of it, okay. I should say all text standard 2mm, all dimensions using the standard 2mm diagonal with tick, okay, but the letters WIR is 3mm. So what I'll do is we'll just have a look at putting in this first note here, which describes this rainwater tank. And I guess it's important when you're actually placing the text is to replicate my text notes in that you've got the same number of lines, and each line contains the correct words, okay, and so exactly the same format. And I guess also the fact that when you're placing your text, that the arrow itself, if there is an arrow, okay, the point of the arrow is just touching the object, okay. Please don't have the arrow back here and have a huge gap, because whoever's looking at your drawings won't be sure what the arrow is actually describing or what the note is describing if you've got a gap. So if we come back to Revit, zoom into the top part of the floor plan here, and we go back to the Annotate tab, and we're now looking at placing text. Now the little arrow here, bottom right hand corner of this panel, opens up what we call text types. So if you are having to work with the types, this is where you can open up your type properties. Okay, so if you have to make changes or if you have to create new types, you can do it all here under text types without actually placing text. There's no need for us to do that. We're going to go straight in and click text. Just check to make sure you've got the correct type, the standard 2mm. And I guess with the text itself, over here under modify place text, this button up here, so this first button up here is no leader. Okay, we've then got single or one segment. We've then got two segment, and we've got curved. Over in the next section here, we've actually got the leader position in relation to the text itself. So if it's on the left-hand side of the text, it's leader at top left. If it's on the right-hand side, it's leader at bottom right. Okay. So don't change those. And the other thing that we've got here is the text alignment here. So we've got top align, align left, middle align, and align centre, and so forth. We've also got this one here, which is check spelling. Now this is an important one. So when you've actually gone through and placed all your text, I'd like you to do a spell check. Okay. So it would pay to actually spell check every view that you've placed text in, okay, after you've finished your text itself. So spell check. Now, just with regard to spell checking, I want to just before we start placing our text, just before we look at spell checking, I'm just going to escape from there for a moment. If you go to the File tab and you go down to Options here, I'd like you to go down to, where are we? Check spelling here. And I'd like you to just to make sure or check which dictionary you're currently using. Okay, so in my case it's British English, which is ISE. In your case, what is it set to? American. Okay. Well, the thing is that we need to swap it from American. Okay, so there's no point in leaving it set to American English. We need to actually set it to British English. That way, that when we, when we're doing our spell check, it's not going to highlight spelling like C-O-L-O-U-R and tell us that that's incorrect, because we know it is. Okay, as opposed to C-O-L-O-R. Having said that, if you're talking about a product called Colorbond, that is C-O-L-O-R-B-O-N-D, okay, and that is correct. So just keep that in mind. But generally, set this to British English before you actually do your spell checking. Okay, so text. Note the shortcut TX. So we select the text tool. We change to the standard 2mm if it's not already highlighted. In this case, we're actually going to click a one segment leader, this button here, and the idea is to then just click close to the rainwater tank. So click, sorry, I'll do that again. So text, one segment, so click, left click here, so click and move to the left, and then click again, so that on the second click you'll actually then start typing. Now note that when you're typing your notes, all your notes need to be in uppercase unless otherwise specified. So begin typing, and when you do type your note, okay, initially you'll actually be typing to the right. Don't worry about that, just keep going, but essentially type the note out in a single line. Okay, so type it in a single line. Don't hit the enter key to actually force a new line. Okay. Okay, and don't hit the enter key once you've finished typing. Okay, so the enter key will actually force a new line, which you don't want. So to actually finish typing and produce the note, you can either click the close button or just click in a free space near the note itself. So left click. All right, and then hit the escape key a couple of times, and there's your note. So the idea here is to reselect the note, and then using the drag bubble on the left-hand side, drag to the right, which will automatically force the multiple lines. Okay, so using the drag bubble, and using the move, see the move symbol up here? Okay, so click and hold that and then move the note up. And just, I guess, just make sure that the arrow itself is not on an angle, it's actually straight, and it is almost touching the object. Okay, so very, very close to the object. Even if you have to zoom in really close for it. Okay, now if the note is out here, so again, what I'm doing at the moment is I've selected the note, and I'm actually holding the shift key down, and I'm actually hitting the left arrow key on my keyboard. Okay, so with your text, if you actually want to move it left or right, up or down, you can use your arrow keys, so up and down arrow, left and right, to just position it. Okay, so that's without shift, that's with shift held down. Without shift, shift held down. Okay, so that's right arrow, and then just bring it in like so. So you can make minor adjustments with your arrow keys on your keyboard, and that moving your text itself using that technique is called nudging. Okay, so and this technique is perfect for just moving your text around in very, very small increments. So just take the time to obviously type your text out with an arrow, for instance, if it requires an arrow, and then drawing the text box in so it forces new lines, and then adjusting the arrow so it's level, and just moving it in so it's just almost touching the object.
How will we ensure that the arrow line is straight, because mine is not coming straight?
The arrow itself, so the arrow itself is comprised of two dots, this one and this one. So if you drag that one up, it's obviously not straight. If you bring it down, it will lock into level at a certain point. Okay, so even if you have to get in not really close, see that's not level. Okay, see the stepping? Okay, at a certain point it will actually lock into level. Okay. So as I say, it's important that the arrows, and in this case it's a single segment arrow, it's important that the arrow, the horizontal, if they're horizontal and vertical, that they are horizontal and vertical and not on the angle. Okay. In some cases when you're putting in leader notes, you have no choice but to put the second part of the leader on an angle. Okay. But generally I'd like you to do 90 degrees. Okay. So horizontal and vertical. So, and the other thing you can do is if you have to repeat or replicate a note with similar wording, what you can do is select this note, for instance, and do a copy, and then click and drag it down to this location here, for instance, because it's a note that's similar down here. And if you then click it and click it again, you can then edit the note, of course, and change the wording, and then reuse the note down here to actually describe this rainwater tank down here. So, so rainwater tank location, in this case 4 by 2000 litre, razor poly tanks or similar. So it's poly tanks with an S or similar, and then remove the words after that. And again, just adjust the note like so, and then just in this case the note itself is actually going, if I nudge that out and slightly down to about there, and in this case if you click the tip of the arrow and then take it up to the rainwater tank here, and then just pick up the arrow from the middle here and then drag it so that you have both horizontal and vertical. Okay, that may need to be further adjusted because you're going to put a note just above that one. So again, if you're placing another note, which obviously you are, above this one, select the note here and just do a create similar, this one up here, create similar. Okay, in this case it's going to be a 2-segment leader, this one here. Okay, and you're going to describe the post, so you need to get in nice and close and then just start the first segment of the arrow from here, moving down, so keeping it vertical. So first click, second click is to create the first segment, second click there, and then move across, and then when you click for the third time, you'll create the 2 segments, and then you can begin typing. Okay, so in this case, the times symbol can be lowercase, and then the word posts. And then again, just click out here or click close, and then that creates the text note. Hit the escape a couple of times to exit the text tool, and then the important thing here is that this note that you've created here needs to be directly above this one, so they need to line up. Okay, so whenever you're putting text one on top of the other, okay, it's important that if they're on this side, okay, if they're on this side of the object and the arrows are on the right, okay, then the text needs to be aligned to the left. So if I drag that to the right and then bring it back this way, can you see the alignment path there? Okay, so it is important that the text aligns to the left in each case, So if you had a series of notes running up the page here, they're all aligned to the left. And you may have to go back and just adjust the arrow back to vertical. Okay, so I guess the positioning there is okay, but if you actually need to move the note up, okay, if these notes are too low, you can select the note again and use the arrow key to actually just move the note up if you need to, like so, and the same with this one. So move that one up, but at the same time just keeping the arrows vertical. So with the the positioning of the notes and the relative length of the arrows, okay, just be guided by my examples here on this sheet. Okay, so sort of aim to get your notes in the same position with the same arrow lengths and so forth. And generally, when you're putting your notes in, just follow my example here with the placement of the notes themselves. So what I'll get you to do is just continue placing your text as per my sheet here. And again, as I say, the majority or all of it is 2 mil, except this one which is 3 mil. So again, once you've placed the text, just reselect it and just use your shift and arrow keys just to nudge it and reposition it. And with text that is actually rotated, so with the text that's running vertically, such as clients' draws. So if we have a look at the text here, see the text here that reads clients' draws that's running vertically. So again, text no leader, 2 millimeter standard. Just initially just click in here. Okay. Now with this, with the text here that reads clients' draws. So firstly, if you see the rotation symbol here, so to actually rotate the text, if you actually click on that rotation symbol, click and hold, and then that will enable you to rotate the text to vertical. And then if you then click the bubble here and drag the bubble, it will actually force one word underneath the other. And then click the text itself and then use the move symbol to actually move into position. Now you'll notice that on my sheet, notice the spacing between the word clients and the word draws. Okay. In my example, those two words are much closer together. Now, the way that I've achieved that is to actually separate the two words. So the word clients is separate from the word draws, and I've actually just physically moved them together, okay? Because there's no way of adjusting the spacing between the text if it's one piece of text, one line on top of the other. So what I've done here is what you can do here is actually select the text, copy it, Okay, modify the first text to actually remove the word drawers. Modify the second piece of text. I mean, you don't have to do it this way, but modify the second piece of text to remove the word clients, and then just move one to the other, like so. Okay, so that's about the only way that you're going to get those two pieces of text much closer together, so making them separate. All right, so I think I'll let you just put the remaining text in, and that will more or less take us to the end of the session. Okay, so what we'll do next week is if you haven't completed your text tonight, can you finish it off before next week? And next week we'll start by having a look at the dimensioning. Okay. So once the dimensioning is finished, we've essentially finished the floor plan, and we can move on to the demolition plan. All right. So I'll just let you work away till the end of the session on this. Otherwise, thank you, and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you.